From News and Information 570 AM, this is the Stenchfield Report.
So, out of the blue, a car goes plowing through a monstrous crowd at this Oklahoma State gathering for a parade over the weekend, killing 4 people, injuring dozens of others. It was described that people were flying through the air. Some victims saw the car coming, were running. The car caught up with them and popped them up into the air. The scene was horrific. There are tweets. A 7-year-old girl, the mom says she got her first helicopter ride today. It was a life flight to Oklahoma City. Please pray for her. What was wrong with this woman, Adacia Chambers? 25 years old. Was she drunk? She failed the field sobriety test. Her lawyer says when he met with her hours after that she had no signs of being drunk. He says she wasn't drunk. So what was behind the crash? Was it mental illness? This is Jesse Gaylord, Adacia Chambers' boyfriend.
I would have to say it would either have to be something like medical, like a seizure, or mental maybe.
Was it mental illness? You know, it seems like every crime we're hearing now, they blame it on mental illness. It's getting old. You got the White Rock jogger. He gets killed by the Texas A&M football player. Mental illness. Everything's mental illness. I don't know. How will this play as a defense? Well, Scott Palmer is a defense attorney with some expertise in this subject. He's with ScottPalmerLaw.com. Scott, it's a great pleasure to have you on the program.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, do you think this will end up being used as a defense, and how successful is this defense typically in situations like this?
Well, absolutely. I think that her lawyer is going to use everything he can. I mean, this has gotten such a huge attention, and it's such a horrible situation that he's going to attack it with there was no substance in her body. She was not intoxicated. She clearly, I've got to believe, she didn't intentionally ram these poor innocent people standing there watching this parade. So was it reckless? I mean, should she have not been behind the wheel at all? In Texas, we call it manslaughter. I think they call it a second-degree murder. We would call that manslaughter here. And where you're reckless for your behavior, you should have appreciated a risk and not done what you did. So, yeah, he's going to probably take the position that she didn't commit any crime, which is, no one wants to hear that because they want accountability for this woman.
Of course, you got a 2-year-old that's dead, 3 others dead as well. Scott, this is Jesse Gaylord talking about the idea of whether it would have been purposefully done or not. Jesse Gaylord, again, is this woman's boyfriend.
As far as for her to purposefully go and do something, that would just not be possible. She would never, no matter what, never do anything like that consciously.
Now, her attorney raised some issues that she may have shown signs of mental illness earlier on. He didn't elaborate much on that, though.
Right. Well, if she doesn't have a history of mental illness, it all kind of goes back to, has she been treated by a doctor? And if she had been treated by a doctor, why is she even operating a vehicle? Does she have her license suspended? In Texas, we would suspend people's licenses for we have a medical advisory board that would take a person's license away. Does that stop them from driving? It's supposed to, but it doesn't always.
Now
she has a mental illness.
She did do a field sobriety test and apparently performed badly on that. Now, if you're a defense lawyer, what do you say in that situation? How do you defend not performing well on that? I would imagine later they end up taking a blood test, correct?
Oh, yeah, there's going to be a mandatory blood test for any sort of fatality, injury, accident like this. But the blood test will reveal whether she had any substance in her body that affected her ability to drive and operate a motor vehicle. The field sobriety tests, they're designed to determine whether someone has lost the normal use of their physical and mental faculties by doing these, they call them standardized field sobriety tests. But this woman has been in a major collision. In all accounts, the car was severely damaged. I doubt she was a candidate for these tests anyway. because of the types of injuries that she probably suffered. And again, I have to believe that to go that fast into that many people where it's pretty apparent that you're not supposed to be driving in this area anyway, was she even conscious when this happened? I don't know. It doesn't seem like she should have been. And, maybe she did have the seizure that her boyfriend discussed. I had a case a few years ago locally where a woman had a seizure, and she was not medicated, and the seizure happened for the first time at this very moment where she hit a kid. And thankfully the kid lived, but that is not, and we argued and we were going to go to trial on that because it wasn't a crime. It was a horrible situation. There's no question. Was she civilly liable for it? Sure. But was she criminally responsible? We said no, because there was no intent to hurt anybody. It wasn't even reckless. She just literally fell asleep at the wheel because of a neurological condition.
Now, will blood work typically show whether or not someone had just experienced a seizure? Can they prove that medically?
I don't think through a blood test. It'd have to be a whole host of neurological testing. I mean, people go through sleep studies. There's a battery of tests a neurologist would do, but a blood test itself would probably not show that. So they may not get much by the toxicology in this case.
All right, we're talking with Scott Palmer. He's a defense attorney with experience in defending cases like this one of the Oklahoma State woman who killed 4 people as she plowed into this crowd that was getting ready to watch a parade. So, Scott, my question for you is, role play here for me. So say you get the call that you have to defend this woman. What's the first thing you do, and what's your main priority?
Get medical records immediately. Try to prove that there was a physical or neurological defect that led to her losing control of this vehicle. I mean, that's probably the first place we start, because if there's no alcohol or pills or drugs in her system, then what is the explanation? And of course, remember, the burden of proof is going to be on the district attorney up in Oklahoma to prove their case. What are they going to charge her with? They're going to charge her with the highest crime they can. And that's why we're hearing the second-degree murder charge. They have a vehicle that's going to be considered a deadly weapon. So they're going to go for the top charge they can, but can they prove it? So as a defense attorney, you want to get ready for the battle. And the battle in this case is going to be all about her and what led to these moments prior to this situation. Were there other 911 calls? Was there other erratic driving? Where was she coming from? Where was she going? Doesn't seem like she has much of a memory, and she's not going to be a lot of help in this case to her lawyer. And they're going to have to put the pieces together, using her cell phone if she had one with her, trying to figure out where she was going. And, of course, the car itself is also a big deal. But the car is going to be in police custody at this time.
All right. So
they won't have access to that.
So her lawyer goes on CNN, and he starts talking about how his interview with her afterwards, that she was giving inappropriate answers. She had a very flat affect, that she was showing no emotion. Should we believe the attorney like this, or is he just starting the process of making sure that this kind of thing is thought about in the public eye?
Well, he's got a public relations battle to wage, and I think that if he came across believable, and that's what he's going to put out there for the public to see, that she had no affect, that she had no memory, that she was flat, that she really had no understanding what was going on, that goes into his defense that she has some mental defect or deficiency and that may not have realized or understood what she did was how monumentally bad this is. And if that's the defense, that's the defense. The prosecution is going to have to rebut that somehow, and it's a difficult thing to rebut when you're trying to get inside someone's head. And this woman, if she doesn't have a history of mental illness, and this is the first time, how convenient, for this defense attorney to bring that up now. But, I guess time will tell, and we'll see what kind of history this woman has. She's only 25. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because that's going to be the cornerstone of their defense.
If you're her attorney, do you go on the interview circuit like this guy's doing?
On these kind of cases, it's a tough call, but probably not. I mean, what are you going to say? Nothing's going to bring back these victims. There's so many people injured, and there's nothing you can really say that's going to, to be acceptable to any of these poor families. So I think you just let it play out and kind of let this story move on and see what happens. But I think I'd probably play this one a little bit closer to the chest and not get on CNN and start talking about how my client, is mentally ill, and unless you've got a history of it that you could show, I would probably just be quiet on this one.
Very, very interesting. Hey, Scott Palmer, defense attorney, scottpalmerlaw.com. I appreciate you coming on, sharing some insight with us.
I appreciate it. My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.